What attracted me to ethnomusicology? I was first introduced to ethnomusicology when I was a freshman at the University of Michigan, where I was a piano performance major, and I took a world music class. It was a required musicology course, and I just distinctly remember being fascinated by the sounds first and foremost, but also the stories that were attached to these various musical traditions. And so that really was the start of my interest in ethnomusicology. And even though I was a piano performance major, I continued to take courses in ethnomusicology there, and that continued on into graduate school. So I went to graduate school at the University of Washington, which is where I did my master's in ethnomusicology, and I did my PhD at Harvard University. I think that my training at the University of Washington at the master's level was absolutely instrumental, and I learned so much from my professors there, in particular Tara Ellingson, Shannon Dudley, and Philip Schuyler. I really had an exposure to theories and methodology in ethnomusicology and benefited from the wonderful resident artist program, which is a cornerstone of their program. So that was really my first in-depth exposure to ethnomusicology. And then I took several years off. I lived in Asia, I lived in South Korea and studied the language, and then also worked in arts administration in Korea. And then I entered Harvard in 2005, entered the doctoral program there, and had a wonderful set of mentors, especially my advisor, Kay Kaufman-Chalamet, and I really had a chance to do in-depth research and kind of utilize the resources that Harvard had and be inspired by my cohort and my professors there. My main research interest for the past few years has been on samul nori, which is a South Korean percussion genre, and I recently published a book called Dynamic Korea and Rhythmic Form that asks the question of how a musical genre goes global, and I was looking at how samul nori became this genre of music that was admired by people outside of Korea, but then also became a genre of music that they actively learned how to perform. One of the major highlights of my career has been hosting this Global Musics and Musical Communities Conference at UCLA. This happened in May of 2019, and the impetus for this conference was really, it came from the epilogue of my book, where I considered how other musical genres have gone global and led to the formation of new musical communities. So originally it was supposed to be a one-day symposium with a performance, but then we expanded the conference to actually include many other papers, and so it was a two-day conference, and I was very excited to see that there were so many papers on the topics of global musics and musical communities, people who are able to address this question of musical mobility and also cross-cultural encounters. So that was probably one of the big highlights of my career, hosting this event at UCLA. Well, I think that ethnomusicology is important in today's world because it teaches students about empathy. I taught a large Musics of the World survey course at UC Davis for a few years, and the student population in this class was mainly non-music majors, and this might have been the only music course that they would have taken during their college career. And I think that this class was important in the sense that it introduced students to new musical traditions and new sounds and new cultures, but also new worldviews. And I feel that that is a really important thing to introduce to students who might not have any connection with musicology or ethnomusicology later on, but to give them an entry point into a different worldview, a different culture through music is very valuable. I remember I had a set of students once who told me that over the weekend they had gone to an Armenian restaurant, and they told the waiter that they knew about the Armenian duduk, and this prompted the waiter then to bring the students extra food and extra service, and this was something that the students just thought was a really neat thing. But when I look at it, I think of it as ethnomusicology as this kind of entry point into conversations that might not necessarily happen. But through ethnomusicology, you get a sense of somebody else's perspective or somebody else's culture, and it can start a conversation, it can open a door, and it also can give you a sense of empathy for somebody else's culture or position. So I think in that sense, ethnomusicology is extremely valuable. And also the emphasis on listening is extremely important in today's world, where we should cultivate the practice of listening and listening with compassion to other people.